Hi, everybody. Welcome. So wonderful to be here together tonight. We are going to give folks let's give them one more minute before we actually start our info session. I know folks are joining us from after work or after class, so just appreciate you all taking the time after your days to be here. Amazing. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're going to give it just a little bit of time for folks to join us on the Zoom before we begin. Yay, there's so many of you. How exciting. Beautiful. Thank you, Yu Young. Awesome. Okay, so hi everybody. Welcome. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are calling from. This is our 2026 Summer Fellowship Information Session. My name is Cassie Rubio. I'm one of the program managers here at Coding It Forward, and I'm joined by my amazing colleague Yu Yang. Hello. And we are so excited to be here together to share more about our summer fellowship. Before we do that, I do have two notes of housekeeping to chat about very quickly. So, the first is that our conversation today is getting recorded. This recording is going to be uploaded to our Coding It Forward YouTube channel. And also, all of the information I'm sharing can be found on our website, codingitforward.com. So, all of that really means is that you can totally sit back, relax, and be present for today's conversation. No need to take notes. And secondly, we are going to be facilitating a question and answer, a Q&A at the end of today's info session. So in order to do that, you may have already seen it, but Yu Yang just dropped a message into our chat. We are asking everyone who has a question to please direct message Yu Yang. Again, we will get to all those questions at the end of today's info session. And I can promise you probably 90% of your questions are going to get answered during the first 20 minutes of our info session slides. So maybe hang tight for a moment and ask those questions after we finish our slide presentation. And I also just want to take a quick moment to thank our three alumni who are here and will be chatting with us later. We have a really awesome conversation planned for all of us today. Awesome. Beautiful. So if you are unfamiliar with Coding It Forward, maybe you got a random email from a professor or you saw us on Handshake. Hello. We are a nonprofit organization. We've been around since 2017, and over the last decade, we really have one thing in mind, and that is empowering the next generation of mission-driven technologists. And that's all of you here today. So if you are someone that loves technology and public service, who loves problem solving, then this is definitely the right place and the right fellowship for you. So like I mentioned, we have a stacked conversation for us today. Here's a quick overview of it. We're going to start with some fellowship basics. We're going to dive into the professional and community building components of our program. We're going to get a little preview of our alumni. There are over 700 in our network at this point, which is super impressive. We love our alums. So we'll get to know a little bit about who they are and where they've been. We're going to move into the meat of today's conversation. I know the part that all of you have the most questions about, that is the application process. So the timeline, what is the scoring criteria, all of that good stuff. We're going to move into the alumni Ask Me Anything. Again, we have three alums here that are ready to share about their experiences. You can ask them any questions. They'll be sharing about any tips they have before you press submit. And then we will wrap up with a team question and answer for any final lingering questions you have before we wrap up. So basically, by the end of today's call, everyone should be informed and excited and prepared to start working on those applications before the fellowship deadline. Beautiful. So, what is the fellowship? It is a 10-week internship opportunity empowering early career technologists to innovate at the local, state, or federal government offices across the country. This is a really unique, one-of-a-kind program, and it remains to this day one of the only pathways for early career tech talent to break into public interest technology. Public interest tech is such a vibrant space, and we're just really excited to see so many of you all are interested in joining this ecosystem. So here we have a preview of what those government partnerships, those offices you could be working in look like. So in the past few years, we have worked with various local, state, and federal agencies, and you can kind of see we have the whole map accounted for from North Carolina, we got California, Utah, New York, like Florida. It's awesome. Really, really expansive. We also have a ton of federal agencies as well. I will say this is not a look at our 2026 summer partners list. That is still being finalized, but really good for you all to start getting familiar with who you could potentially be working with in the near future. Okay, and when you are a fellow at a government office, you will be working on a technical project. So here are three previews of technical projects past, if you will. One fellow who was working with the state of New Jersey was helping them improve accessibility of their unemployment benefits application page, and that page saw 20,000 daily users, which is just such an impressive, scalable size that you can be working at. We had another fellow who is working with the city of Los Angeles developing COVID-19 vaccine outreach tools. And we know when COVID first happened, how critical these resources were and continue to be for our communities. And finally, we have a fellow who is working with the General Services Administration, the GSA, helping create a new AI chatbot that was connecting government employees with vital information within seconds, alleviating workload for those employees. So these are just three examples of how you can be leveraging your tech skills to be making everyday Americans' life better, to help government be more effective and equitable for our communities. That is really what public interest tech is all about. And I will suggest before you submit your application that you go on our website, codingitforward.com, and on our homepage, if you scroll down to the bottom, you can actually find our GitHub where we have many, like I'm talking hundreds of projects you can look at from other cohort cycles and really get familiar with the type of projects you can be working on. So, along with your government project, you will be working in a specific track for your tech skill set. So, we have 5 tracks you can choose between. The first being cybersecurity, data, design, product management, and software engineering. So, a popular question we often get asked is, can I do multiple tracks? Can I apply across the tracks? The answer is no. We want you to choose only one. The one that you choose should be the one that you are most comfortable in, the most experienced in, and that's because from day one of your fellowship, you're going to be expected to be a technical contributor to your team. So it's not really the moment to start choosing a new lane you really don't know much about. Folks are going to be ready for you to contribute. So again, choose only one track and choose it wisely, the one that you are the most confident and experienced in. Okay, so now we're going to cover eligibility. This is a really important slide, so everyone please pay close attention. Again, all of this information can be found on our website in case you forget later on, but these criteria have changed since last year. So let's go over what those changes are. So for age and work eligibility, number one, you got to be at least 18 years old at the start of our program. That is a non-negotiable. Additionally, you have to be living in the United States as a US citizen, a US national, or a permanent resident. I'm going to say this one more time because this is our most popular question. You must be a US citizen, a US national, or a permanent resident to apply. That means we are unable to consider other work authorizations regardless of your visa, CPT, OPT authorizations, etc. Okay? Next, let's go over educational background. So this is another one that has changed since last year. Currently, we are only accepting applications from juniors or seniors in undergraduate. Okay, that means you are close to graduation. We are also accepting applications from master's or doctoral program students at any level or recent graduates from any of the three. Okay, and if none of that applies to you, we are also accepting applications from boot camp or certificate program students. Again, as long as you abide by the minimum program length of 3 months and live instruction. And then finally, let's jump over to graduation requirements. We are asking that you graduated from your educational program no earlier than May 1st, 2025, and if applicable, before December 31st, 2027 for your bachelor's, and before January 31st, 2026 for your boot camp or certificate program. Now, I know that's a lot of dates. We have all of this eligibility criteria on our website, and we have it at the beginning of our application so you know for sure where you stand. But really, all of this is just to make sure that you have the skills and experiences necessary to thrive in your government placement and do an awesome job. Okay, so let's get into some logistics now for the fellowship. As I mentioned earlier, this is a 10-week summer opportunity. So it's going to start June 8th and end August 14th of 2026, now this year. These dates are set in stone. Really, the only accommodation we can make is if you are accepted as a fellow and you are finishing your finals or maybe going through graduation at the beginning of the summer. That does happen, so we will gladly accommodate, but largely those are your 10 weeks of the fellowship, so plan accordingly. You will be working full time in your capacity for $20 to $25 per hour. Again, that is a 40-hour work week. And then finally, for location, whether you are working in person or remotely, that is dependent on your government office, but either way, we are asking that you work entirely in the United States for the entire summer. There is no travel permitted outside of the country. So that means if you want to go on your amazing adventure across the world, you do it either before or after the fellowship ends. And again, that's really because you have government data, you have laptops, they're all sensitive and they need to stay here. Okay, programming. So we take a lot of time and care to make sure we have a very robust program you can look forward to as a fellow. So let's learn more about that. One type of programming we offer is all professional based. So these are going to be weekly events with leading technologists who truly, in my experience, are some of the kindest, most empathetic, intelligent, hardworking people in this field. And they're taking time out of their day to come talk to all of you. These are going to be really candid, small information, or sorry, small conversations where you're going to get a lot of your question answered. So it's just a really impactful space that we've designed for all of you. They're going to be sharing more about the products that they've built, the services they've developed, the policy they've crafted. It's really expansive. On top of that, you can also look forward to having a mentor that you'll get to spend one-on-one time with over the summer. We have a lot of alums who report that they are still in relationship with their mentors. And so that's just like a really important resource we have for you. We make those matches very selectively. And then, of course, you have our Coding It Forward team who will be with you day in and day out to make sure that your summer is really what you want it to be. On top of that, you also have an incredible cohort to get to know over your 10 weeks. So we ensure, even though our fellowship is largely virtual, that there is no lack of opportunities to really build rapport with one another. We do that through weekly calls, whether that is group check-ins, social conversations, we have trivia nights, a lot of fun stuff to look forward to. And our hope really is that those relationships you make in the fellowship can last you long after it ends. Okay, and after you finish the fellowship, you graduate and you become a Coding It Forward alum. Like I mentioned at the top of our call, we have over 700 alums in our network, which is so mind-boggling. As you can imagine, these alums are all over the country. They are representing 175 academic institutions. Many of them identify as BIPOC or women or non-binary folks. So we're really proud of like the richness of our cohort. our cohorts of the last 9 years almost. They've been at 80 different offices. And if we go to the next slide, we can see that, yeah, there is a lot of ways you can actually get to know these 700 people. One of the best ways we do that is by hosting happy hours across the country where alums, mentors, and other colleagues from the field join us. Another perk of being an alum that I think is very important, especially in today's climate, is our name recognition to hopefully get you leads for jobs. So once people know that you are a Coding It Forward alum, they are really excited to hire you. So we get a lot of private job opportunities sent our way. Here is a snapshot of where our alums have gone on to work, many working in the social or government space. So as you can see at the local, state, and federal level, I love to always uplift Rachel because she actually went on to become the first ever Chief Data Officer of Utah, which is just freaking cool. It really is. So, like, we're just so proud of our alums. And those who don't stay in government, if we move forward, actually take a lot of other pathways. So we have folks that go into the nonprofit sector. We have folks that go to graduate school, again, for that master or PhD. So if you're ever curious about higher ed, our alums are always very excited to share more about their experiences. And then we have a large portion that go on to private sector. So really, no matter what pathway you choose, our fellowship is giving you transferable skills that you can take anywhere with you. And now I know the part that everyone wants to know about, the actual application. So let's get into it. So for Coding It Forward's fellowship, it is a three-step process. The first is a general application, which we will get into in just a second. It is really short, really sweet. We choose based off of that a next group of people to invite to stage 2. That's going to be a video interview with us, the Coding It Forward team. And we try and really create a lot of resources to prep you for this interview and make it as least intimidating as possible. And then finally, folks then get moved into a third stage, which is a final interview, a video interview with the government offices themselves. And then from there, the government offices will determine who they want to extend the offer to. And that's really how we build our cohort. One quick thing to mention is that these video interviews are largely behavioral and not technical based interviews. Okay, so let's talk about that stage 1. That's the application process. It's the stage we are currently in right now. Gotta mention, the deadline is coming up, my friends, very, very soon. It is closing next Monday, so you have a few days left to apply. First things first with this application, again, like I mentioned, we have an eligibility check on it, so you can really know that you fit our eligibility criteria. If you get the go-ahead, you are going to be pushed into the next part of the application, which is the material submissions. So there are two things we are looking from you for that. So that's going to be a resume and short answer responses. Let's talk about the resume for a second. This is so important. I cannot stress this enough, okay? Young is laughing because Young agrees. This is where everyone gets tripped up a little bit. So everyone has to submit a standard formatted resume according to Coding It Forward specifications. In order to help you do that, we've given you two choices. You can either use our resume template or our resume builder tool. Both of them are in the application. They're on our website. You can start using them right now if you want to get into prepping for it. But either way, you have to choose between these two and create a standard format for your resume. If you do not, we are unfortunately going to have to reject your application immediately. And that's just given how many of you there are applying. Make it easy for us. Follow the directions very carefully. We've even created videos and example resumes for you to look and guide your work off of. And really, this is for your benefit because we are trying to create a standardized, bias-free screening process, okay? And I want to flag if you are a design candidate, you will also be asked to submit just a portfolio or example of your past work. And then, as I mentioned, the second part of this application is going to be a short answer response. You're going to get two really straightforward, easy questions to answer. They are really just opportunities for us to get to know you, why you care about the fellowship, how you want to leverage your skills to make our world better. We are not looking for perfect answers, nor are we expecting you to be the most incredible writers on the planet. Just answer from your own unique perspective and lived experience. And pretty please don't just put our questions into ChatGPT. We definitely know when you have done that. We want to actually hear from you. Amazing. Once you have submitted all these things, here are the things we are going to screen for. Number one, technical proficiency. You've chosen a track. Your resume shows that you have experience in it. Number two, that you are mission driven. Again, someone who is ready to use your skills to make the government more equitable for Americans. Third, we are looking for folks that are excellent communicators, whether that is talking to non-technical or technical stakeholders alike. We are making sure that you can make information digestible, accessible for people, that you are an independent problem solver, so you take initiative, you love being a technical contributor and a problem solver on your team, and finally, you are someone who can navigate ambiguity. And this is really important because working in government is like no other place. It is full of an ever-changing pace in work, and so we want someone who can really accommodate that. Now, if you've aligned with all five of those, you are in pretty good shape for your application. If you have followed our resume instructions, we are going to get to see your technical ability. So that is all amazing. What we are not going to be screening for in the application are things like the prestige of your educational institution, your previous internship, flashy names you may have worked with or not, your GPA, or your high school accomplishments. So again, we care most about your values and your technical ability. Yay! Okay, so that is all the basics you need to know about the fellowship. Let's kind of transition to our alumni Q&A. We have our three fabulous folks here. So welcome Jessica, Nicole, and Elle. Hello. So good to see all of you. Welcome. Let us start this Q&A with some introductions. So I will let you all introduce yourselves. If you can please share your name, your government office, and role you had for your summer, and then just a quick preview of what the government project you were assigned with. And we'll do popcorn style. So Nicole, I saw you first. Let's start with you and we can continue after.
Alrighty. So, hi everyone. I'm Nicole. I worked for the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and I was a full stack software engineer in the open source team. And I actually had the opportunity to work on two projects. One was external, one was internal. The internal one was essentially I created alongside with two other fellows a dashboard built with like React and TypeScript. And it was essentially to display all of the CMS open source projects. And the other one was an opportunity where we got to communicate with the human health services. And there, what we did was essentially just like pitch and make some designs in Figma and to just help them come up with a solution for one of the problems they had.
Thank you, Nicole. Let's popcorn it over to Jessica.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica. I was part of the 2024 cohort, and I was a design fellow at the Department of City Planning for New York City. And I was under the Geographic Data and Engineering team. So, as a design team, we created a design system for the city planning's products to have a consistent and accessible user experience. So our goal was throughout the 10 weeks was to sync the design and developer workflows for design decisions to stay consistent throughout development. So we created a design system that had a bunch of guidelines, style guides, and design tokens that would be applied to all our products. And we were able to apply it to some suites of our products like the Capital Projects Portal and the Zap notification system. And yeah,
So
I'll pass it over to
exciting.
Ellie.
Yes, Elle.
Hi everyone, I'm Elle. I was a data fellow at the Bureau of Justice Statistics 2 summers ago. Um, I was a part of the law enforcement team. So my project was basically taking data from these large-scale national surveys that they would do, where law enforcement agencies would provide kind of demographic data and data about their procedures and turn that into an interactive agency level dashboard, a way for kind of law enforcement agencies to compare their own stats with either other agencies or with kind of national benchmarks.
Thank you, Al. So now that we know a little bit more about what your government projects were, we would love to learn kind of what was your day-to-day like in these government offices? What was the structure of your team or the tools or skills you were kind of using frequently to do a great job as a fellow? And let's do reverse order. So, Elle, I'm gonna go with you first this time.
Yeah, my day to day, I'd say was pretty self-guided. It started off with kind of 2 meetings a week with my direct supervisor where we'd kind of check in. We could have kind of longer discussions. And then beyond that, communication was mostly just through email. I felt really comfortable kind of shooting over emails, asking questions whenever I needed it. My team was, again, the law enforcement team. There were 5 people on it, but they pretty much had individual projects that they were working on. They were kind of each in charge of 1 or 2 large surveys. So there wasn't as much like team collaboration per se, but I was interested in another team member's kind of work that they were doing just for out of my own interest. So I set up a coffee chat and I was still able to kind of get a chance to learn about the work of the other people on the team. In terms of kind of tools and skills, I primarily used R, but I wanted to learn a bit of Python. So I asked my supervisor if he was okay with me kind of testing out something a little bit more unfamiliar, and he was okay with it. So I got to get some Python experience as well. And then in terms of building the dashboard, I did some of it using JavaScript and then some of it using Tableau, which was kind of a platform that they already use. So it was easier to integrate for them that way. And I guess there are a lot of soft skills that I learned too, kind of keeping track of documentation of what I was doing so I could more easily communicate with my supervisor, kind of being proactive about asking questions and understanding what kind of pre-existing tools and resources were available to me, both for my benefit in terms of what support I could get, but also in terms of how easily my work could be integrated as well.
That's awesome. And for everyone, I hope you caught that like piece of advocacy that Elle was just talking about, right? So as a fellow, still feeling comfortable to share like new tech stacks you want to get involved in, or like you said, learning about another team member's project. So that's an incredible way to make use of your fellowship. Jessica, what about you?
Yeah, I had a pretty similar experience to Elle. A lot of it is self-guided, and for my team, it was a pretty small team. It was me, my co-fellow Wendy, and our supervisor. And usually, because we were working across different time zones, we try to check in once daily with each other, whether it's through Microsoft Teams, maybe through a quick chat, or just through messages, just to make sure like we're all synced up with our work, because we're all in different time zones. And on the day-to-day basis, work kind of shifts around depending if we're working in between like research or the design aspects. One day we might be doing like a competitive analysis on the different design systems that exist available and how should we follow what standards to follow for that and how to apply it to our products. Maybe we're doing usability testing or maybe we're doing interviews. All depends on the various products and different phases that we're working with. But primarily we worked on the design system and connecting that all through Figma, Storybook, and GitHub, and syncing that all together into documentation for the other teams that we collaborate with, such as like data engineering and the software engineering team.
Thank you. And what about you, Nicole?
Yeah, I guess kind of similar, pretty independent, but there was also still a lot of collaboration and being involved, especially amongst me and the other fellows. My team, actually, interesting enough, was primarily with a lot of designers, and it was so apart from me and the 2 other fellows. there was only two other engineers in the team. And so then you would have, apart from that, a lot of designers of with very specific specializations. Like one was like for just within like writing, and one was for like more like UX focus. And so that was something that was very interesting to me because I got to learn a lot from them and just their perspective when it comes to developing a product and the significance when it comes to ha having a good design prior to doing any like development of any kind. And so that's a little bit off topic, but yeah, I would say usually we would communicate through Zoom or through Slack and give our like stand up. And I would have one-on-ones with my manager who was the tech lead. And that would just be like, yeah, around like 15 minutes or so. And yeah, so apart from that, just the tools that we would use would be Python, like React, and yeah, that was essentially it. We had a lot of flexibility within the projects that we were working on. I would say, for instance, like me, I wanted to also dive more deeper within like Figma. And so that's kind of how I got the opportunity to like focus more on like, the design portion within the second project that our tech lead got us on. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nicole. Looking back for all of you, what do you feel is the most impactful part of your fellowship and how has it informed the work that you're currently doing today? And let's go, Jessica, kick us off.
Yeah, it was like my first avenue into like the civic tech space, and it was really satisfying to see like all our work accumulate into like these deliverables and have an impact on the people we serve. And it was also a great experience to like network and talk to individuals who work in the civic tech space, whether they be technical or non-technical. Like I learned a lot about city planning and all the various processes and things that happen, and it's a really complex system, and I have great appreciation for those individuals with the knowledge that they're able to share, and especially for the design team, there's a lot of our processes, we need a lot of context to understand what the problem space is at hand, because it does tend to be very ambiguous and it tends to change quite often. So it was great to practice those skills of how to communicate with each other and produce great work.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Nicole, what's been the impact for you and how does it inform your current work?
It's just a lot of different things. For one, just compassion for all the workers at CMS. I know like the healthcare system, we all like have issues with it, but like the workers there, I was just collaborating with them. I could see just how passionate they were about this, and some of the things that are happening are just out of their control. And so a lot of it was just that, and getting to really understand some of the problems that come with that and just communication. There is this big disconnect with like the technical and non-technical folk, and that includes even just when it comes to design, right? There's some times, I guess, when it comes here, this disconnect of, okay, there's a solution for everything in just technology. And I guess now you can see that with AI. Like we just put solve the solution by using AI. But sometimes the thing is actually much more simpler, and you just need to come up with like your like research and understanding the user. What is it that they really need? And understanding the problem, really coming up with the designs, presenting it to them, getting feedback. All that is so valuable and important and is part of just like what I learned from all these designers and the people on my team primarily, um, and how that's important. And that's actually something that I found to be much more important than any of the coding I did. And part of that is because it is something that's true. And I see it often time with in just like even the industry right now. Like some of my friends, like they'll be working very hard on a feature or a product even, and they would complete it, but it never goes to production. And that's the thing that happens when you don't really do that much research into like, is this actually something that's needed? And so having that experience in the fellowship where I got to communicate with the people in HHS and actually really just learn to pitch and come up with different like designs of like, okay, well, we can go with this approach. And when I was doing each approach, I would also think about how am I going to code this? How am I going to write this out? And what the cost is in terms of like, okay, will this be feasible for them with their budget? Those are things that you think about that typically juniors don't think about. When I say juniors, I mean junior developers. Um, it's something what more like a tech lead or someone with more experience has to like really think about. And this is all like system design. Um, so yeah, I that's something that I just like really got some experience with, and it was really meaningful. Yeah.
I love that, especially the empathy piece, because this is definitely a space that thrives on human relationships and being human-centered. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Elle, what about you?
I think a big part of it was just the fellowship itself, like being able to get my foot in the door and work in this government space in like a very professional capacity, because it was kind of a direct pipeline to my current job, also in a data heavy role, working in criminal justice policy, which I never would have gotten this job without the fellowship. So I think the kind of just very applicable experience and what I'm interested in pursuing as a career was very impactful. But in terms of like skills, I think learning to like navigate that ambiguity, I think Cassie highlighted earlier that it's a really valuable skill. And I think kind of learning how to trust your skills and figure out how to ask good questions and ask them proactively and set timelines for yourself. Kind of learning to manage your own time and kind of being a good peer and employee. I think that's really helpful. And I think being in a setting where you might not be getting direct instructions like you're used to, like in class per se. If someone's telling you to like write a draft of something, they're not going to tell you the font or maybe exactly the one, two, three of what they want, but it's kind of up to you to figure it out partially and also learn like when to ask questions. So kind of just learning how to be in a professional setting like that was really helpful.
Yes, that is definitely so important, taking initiative and being proactive. Awesome. So thank you folks who have shared with us your questions. I have some here for our alums now. And for the sake of time, I think I'm just going to ask each alum one specific question for them. So we have one here for you, Elle, actually. Let's start with you. Did you know Tableau before the fellowship? And are there any certifications that helped you prepare for your experiences within public service?
I did know a little bit of Tableau going into it because I kind of learned it through class. But I would say don't be discouraged if you feel like your technical skills, if you don't know like everything, like I wouldn't say that I was super confident in my data skills going into this. I honestly didn't think I would make it past the technical screening, but I think maybe experimenting with the online learning tools, having like maybe some test examples of work that you can do are really helpful. I had one or two examples from class, and I also practiced kind of just making a dashboard on my own with publicly available data. So, like, these skills are definitely not things that you need to learn in class or learn through a particular curriculum. I think there's a lot of great resources out there for that. And yeah, overall, don't be too discouraged if you don't feel like you know everything in your particular tract.
So right, literally, like we don't have like a set, like you must know these different things, and that's exactly why, because every government office wants a very particular skill set, and so it's really, really expansive. And again, I'm gonna plug that GitHub, go onto it from our website and look at this tech stacks other fellows have used just to get a little bit more familiar. Thank you, Al. Jessica, on to you. Do you have any advice for folks on the call as far as how to interview with government offices, given your experience now?
Yeah, I think especially when it comes to design, like showing how you make the decisions that you make and how you justify these decisions are very important. And usually we do like a portfolio presentation for this. I know some people might present like their website. Personally, I like having a slide deck just to avoid any like technical issues that might you might run up with showing and screen sharing a website. And so usually you want to focus on aspects of like, why was this problem space chosen? What's the significance of it? Who are your users? Who are the other actors involved in the system? Because we also just not only cater to the users who are using the product, but also the folks that maintain and eventually build on top of this product as well. And another point to really highlight is how do you communicate your findings as a designer to other individuals that you'll be collaborating with, from stakeholders, city policy workers, and engineers.
Thank you, Jessica. Nicole, let's have you close us out for our alum Q&A. So I know you talked about the importance of like empathy and creating relationships. So I'm curious, how can folks, especially in this kind of virtual experience, either maximize their time, deepen their relationships with their team, their supervisor, or even like the mentor they're given? Any advice?
I would suggest scheduling coffee chats, like even just within the first week, just like reaching out to, it's a lot easier in my opinion to like reach out online, just even just a message, and you can schedule it out like 2 weeks and later or whatever. Uh, just doing that though right ahead can help you just avoid that procrastination and the thoughts of like that you might have of wanting to meet them, but still very nervous about it. And apart from that, um, I would say the just like being open about like where you are currently in your process, um, with like if you have any blockers, like just putting it out there on the Slack channel. We in particular, when I was in the cohort, we had a Slack channel where it was specific to stand up. So that was helpful in that sense because I can just note down everything and if I had any blockers as well. Um, Trying to think of anything else, but yeah, not really. I don't have anything else.
Oh, good. I'll also plug in that, like, if anyone has never had a mentor in particular, that's something that sometimes folks get a little nervous about. We also have a lot of resources for how to engage with your mentor and sample agendas for your calls. And so I think across the board, though, it's just being open-hearted. Nicole, like you were sharing, like actually communicating what it is you want out of the experience, out of your relationship, and just being interested in getting to know folks. I think all of our alums have said the people that they got to work with were really incredible human beings. So it is quite the experience. And thank you for sharing more about yours. So, with that, I think we can bid our alums good night. Thank you so much for being here. So good to see all of you and everyone listening. Still hang on. We have our team Q&A to answer any lingering questions. So, hello, Yu Young. What questions do we have today?
All right. So yeah, thank you all for submitting your questions. I have grouped them into different buckets and themes. So we're gonna go in kind of the themes instead of the order that you have submitted them. I also probably have lost track which one.
Sounds like a plan.
But let's start from the application process. So there's always questions about statistics from past applications, estimates of cohort sizes, number of applicants, percentage of people getting moved forward, which track is more competitive? Is there a rate for a particular track? So I think to answer all of that question, we need to provide the context that, our fellowship is special in our selection process because it's two-sided, right? So we work with you primarily to move you through our selection process, but at the same time, our partnerships colleague works very hard to get our government partners onboarded as well. So all of that is to say it is heavily dependent on the number of roles that we are able to secure for that particular cohort, what areas of practice or track that those roles are going to be in, as well as what are some of those skill sets that those offices are asking that year. So that looks different across different years and different cohorts. So those numbers do not make sense at all when it is applied to a different cohort. So that information is just not informative. And I would say, don't get discouraged if you're not selected one year. Many of our past applicants or fellows had applied to our programs multiple years. And, it's a lot of times not because you're not a qualified candidate. It's a lot of times just because your particular skill set might not be something that our partners are looking for that year. So definitely reapply if you found this. Stay in touch, subscribe to our newsletters, look for other opportunities that our Coding in 4 offers. Okay, all right, so let's get into some specific application questions. Do you prioritize candidates with existing public service experience? We don't have like a checkbox for that. But I think that goes into, I think, one of the pillars that we talked about in the info session about mission driven, right? We want to look for candidates who are committed to doing this work. So however you construe that in your application to show and demonstrate that you are a mission driven technologist, that is up to you, and it's always to your benefit to include those details if you have them. How will technical abilities be measured in applicants? So I would say in the first round, it would be your resume. So please, please, please work on your resumes. We've given you the examples. I know it is tedious to having to, copy and paste and reformat everything. But that helps us help you and advocate you as a good candidate to move forward. We get thousands of applications every year, and we're a very small and mighty team. So please help us help you move forward. We also have, I would say, some instructions and examples on the resume template itself. If you look at the Google Docs version, I don't know if we included that link on the Builder tool, but it's a link, I believe, from MIT's Career Center about how to write a resume bullet. It's the PAR format, so the problem, the action, and the result. So kind of similar, if those of you who've done interviews before, the STAR format during a behavioral interview is very similar. You want to describe the problem, you want to talk about the results and what you did on those bullets. And what's the other advice I have? Bolding and highlighting. Use those wisely. Don't bold the entire page, but do bold the keywords and help us find those keywords. Okay. All right, this is an interesting question. Would political affiliation hurt application? For example, criticism of current government during short answers is a reason to be involved in government and make it better for the public. So I would say no. We don't really consider your political affiliation. That's not something that we collect. It is up to you what you want to put in your short answers. And we certainly care about why you're motivated to do this work, but we don't judge you one way or the other.
Yeah, and I'll just say on that end, remember, this is also a professional setting, and you may work in a government office with many different ideologies. So keep that in mind. However, at the end of the day, we're a nonprofit, which means we are also nonpartisan. So again, that will not be counted against you in any capacity.
All right. Where can we find a resume template? It is on our website. So I have put in the chat a couple of links. It should be in the apply page. There should be an entire section dedicated to the resume template. You will have access to the resume builder tool, which is a web-based tool where you can plug in, write your bullets, and then export a PDF. Or if you want that fine-grain editing, you can download it as a Word document. You can copy it as a Google Doc, and do more of that editing in whatever Word editor you would prefer. One more note. We are spending a lot of time to talk about resume templates. This is a signal to all of you that this is very important to us. Please don't change the format, add a new section. Even adding your name is detrimental. We want this to be a bias-free process. So, no, like, a lot of times private industry, you might have like, education, skills, certification, relevant projects. Some people put a summary, like don't do any of that. Just follow the instruction to the T, what you need to put in, and then leave it at that. And then I think another question also about resume template, should we fit our resume into one page with the standardized format? So you wouldn't be able to, I think, because of how bulky some of those section headers are. So the limit would be 2 pages for everyone's awareness. I think that's also written in the instructions. So 2 pages would be appropriate. If you find yourself going beyond 2 pages, I believe the resume builder tool will yell at you and let you know that you're going way over, or that you might just want to do some trimming on the bullets. Cool. All right, let's see. There are some questions about like track specific. So like, things about coding languages used in the projects, any coding language changes on a project, what type of tools that are commonly used by cybersecurity interns. Yeah, so I think as Cassie said earlier, like we don't really have a set list. Those skills demand look different every year. So and to us, the most important things that we want to see in the initial stages, as throughout the stages that Coding It Forward is responsible for, would be, I think, a baseline level of technical competency, right? So if you're a data person, we should expect you to be able to talk about the concepts related to the data science, some of the common tools. There is not a set list that you have to check off. Okay, all right. So those are all of the application questions. Some questions about design examples. So any tips for design portfolios, any emphasis on finalized result work or steps throughout the design process? They don't have a complete portfolio yet, but some case studies, some presentations on Figma. Would any of those work? I would say that section is pretty open. So it's not restricted to a portfolio. So for those of you who might not have a full design portfolio yet, that's totally okay. You have the option. It's framed as past design examples. So whether you want to submit 1 or 2 examples, whether you want to submit a full portfolio, that would be up to you. The goal, especially I think for design as a track, it's a lot more visual in nature. So we want to give you that space to augment all of the written impact on your resume, and give our reviewer a fuller picture of the products that you had worked on before. All right, I'm going to pass some of the interview questions to Cassie. Is the final interview in person or virtual, and what do those interviews look like?
Yeah, so like we mentioned, all of the interviews, number one, are going to be video interviews. So again, stage 2 is an interview with the Coding It Forward team. Stage 3 is going to be interview with the government office. We are doing behavioral interviews, not technical interviews, and we will be sure to send you a ton of resources to help you prepare at every step of these interviews. So you walk in feeling very prepared. And again, they are online.
Cool. Do candidates get to apply to specific locations or projects, or is that determined otherwise?
That is determined otherwise. Perhaps there will be some government offices that ask for local talent, local candidates, in which case those will be like specifically flagged and we'll share that with you. But largely, again, this is like a distributed team setup, so folks can be working for a government office from anywhere in the country.
Cool. All right. And I think that also answers some people's questions about relocation. So we would not force anyone to relocate. They're like primarily we expect a lot of the roles will be fully remote still. For those that might have requirements for hybrid or in person, again, we expect there to be a bit more on kind of local candidates for proximity. And again, if you do move forward to our final interview stage with the government offices and you get matched to a project that one, your skill fits, and two, that you might be considered for local placement, we will provide more information so you're aware if you want to move forward as like an additional factor to consider. Okay, some questions about program experience. I'm also recognizing that we're 2 minutes left, so we'll probably keep going for maybe a few more minutes over, but probably not everyone's question is going to get answered. So again, plugging our email in the chat earlier. If you have individual questions that we have not been able to answer tonight, feel free to send it our way, and we'll be more than happy to get your response.
I'll also just plug in too for anyone that may have lingering questions. Somehow we did not answer it. Tomorrow we have an office hour, and if you all click on the link Yu Young sent, which is the apply link, that's going to give you the Zoom for the office hour. You do not have to register, just hop onto it, and we'll be there to answer any logistical or application questions you may still have. That is tomorrow.
Great. What are the chances for a return offer? So that's something, unfortunately, we have no control over because we are only here to facilitate a short-term internship program. But that's also something that we encourage fellows, if you do get placed, to have that conversation with your supervisors. That's
Yeah.
totally depending on funding, depending on whether there's a possibility even to hire someone, depending on terms of engagement and et cetera, and et cetera. So we do have fellows who have stayed with their offices or in other offices of the same agencies before, but we, as an organization, would not be able to facilitate that.
Mhm.
All right. Is there a program track that explores AI policy or sustainable technology?
Mhm.
Um,
No, but I can say it's something we're thinking about for future programs outside of the fellowship. So subscribe to our newsletter and stay tuned. More there.
Yeah. And I would say like another note about our fellowship, it's technical in nature, so there should be very little policy like crafting work. We do have sister organizations in the ecosystem that does a lot of like policy focused work like Tech Congress. But we will be, even if there's policy involved, you're most likely working on the implementation side with a technical tool or product versus like actually, sitting in and crafting a policy. Okay, all right. I'm gonna click through some of the ones that got sent to me and then go from there. People are asking about technical interviews. Again, we expect interviews to be largely behavioral. Can you apply to two roles? No. So pick the one that you are the most technically proficient in. We want you to be ready to go and set you up for success on day one. So yeah, this will not be kind of a program where you learn something completely new. Recordings will be shared. Yes, they will be uploaded to YouTube. All right. The application process once a year, or is it several times a year? So right now, this application program, the season is once a year. But if there are future iterations of cohorts that are not part of the typical summer timeline, subscribe to our newsletter. There will be more information.
Yeah, we'll share on the newsletter on our website if there are other off-cycle apps.
Okay. All right. So I think that is all of the questions. Sorry for skipping over some of your questions. Some of them get a little too specific for us to answer on a general call. So again, plug the office hour. As Cassie said, tomorrow it is open to all. Come bring a question about the application itself, eligibility. But please actually do read the website before. I really hate to just sit there and just explain everything we have done tonight to
The
someone.
website is so thorough, everyone. So thorough. I promise you, your answer is probably on the website if you give a second to read it.
Cool. Is it tomorrow or Thursday?
Did I lie? Hold on, let's see if I lied.
It is tomorrow.
It's
It is
tomorrow, yes.
11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes, it is tomorrow. Cool. Okay, well, I think, Young, that's everything we have then, correct?
Yep.
Amazing. Well, thank you everyone for hanging out with us to learn more about the 2026 Summer Fellowship. Again, the deadline is this upcoming Monday. So I hope this call got you excited to submit your application. Look at our website, look at our GitHub, everything is there. And if you have any other questions, we'll see you on tomorrow's office hour. But take very good care, and we're looking forward to reading your applications. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, alums.